Then suddenly, one word comes to my consciousness: Ethel. We had made two major decisions before we got married. That divorce, number one, was divorce was never going to be an option for us. Whatever it was, we were going to work it out. And number two, we would never, ever make a major decision in our lives without discussing it and consulting the other one. And here we are. I've just made a pretty major decision. I rushed to the telephone. I called my wife. I said, "Sweetheart." She said, "What?" I said, "It's true." And she said, "What's true?" And I said, "Jesus really is our Messiah." Silence for what seemed like eternity. It was maybe 5 seconds. And then I hear a whisper, "Oh, thank God." That makes it unanimous. Because let me take you backwards in time. I was in San Francisco at that meeting. Ann was in L.A. Judy was up in Boston. Who knew that Ann's friend in L.A. was a Jewish friend, had become a believer and led Ann to the Lord while they were horseback riding one day? And Ethel was up in in Washington, in Boston with Judy. And as she tells the story, she went to bed one night not believing anything, not believing any of it. And she said, "When I woke up the next morning, I believed it all." But they all decided to wait for Daddy. And so when I told them that I'd come to believe that Jesus really is our Messiah and had received him as Lord of my life, you could have heard the screams. And I rushed home. It was about a 2.5-hour ride home. I made it in about 34 minutes. No. And the telephone calls didn't stop. And I've got to tell you that was a launch pad for me, because a sense of love and a sense of peace and a sense of joy and a sense of well-being and something happened on the inside of me that I couldn't possibly explain. I had never experienced in my entire life the kind of joy that I had at that time. And then about 9 months later, I crashed. I came down and hit concrete and said, "What happened? What happened? Where's my joy? Where's this excitement? Where's this enthusiasm? Where's this, what happened?" And I went to talk to this lady that I was telling you about earlier, who told me to look up those 4 scriptures. And she said, "Stan, I think God is speaking to you." I said, "He is? What's he saying?" She said, "I think he's telling you to get off your feelings and to get onto your faith, because he has work for you to do." And I said, "Me? What could I possibly do for God?" Ho, ho, ho. That was in 1975. And since then, I have to tell you that the most important center of my life is the living God. I have a different kind of joy, I have a different kind of peace than I had when I first believed. But if I knew way back on July 3rd, 1975, that Jesus is indeed our Messiah, can you imagine how much more I know it today? Can you begin to comprehend how significant my knowledge of who Jesus is has changed my life? It's wonderful to hear a testimony like mine. You could probably share your own testimony, and people would be interested as well. But what's significant, as far as I'm concerned, is not what I'm sharing with you, but what you do about what I've shared with you. What have you learned from what I've shared? What have you learned about the built-in fear that Jewish people have? What I'm saying to you is that most of my people don't know anything about the scriptures. All we know is the hatred we've experienced over these last 2,000 years. What we need to know is your love. What we need to know is the love that God's placed in your heart for us. What we need you to do is to show us the way back to our God. Open the way for us. Provoke us to jealousy. Well, how are you going to provoke us to jealousy? By the size of your department stores, by the number of professions, by the number of Nobel Prize winners? I don't think so. But you can provoke us to jealousy by showing us the difference that Jesus has made in your life. Show us the fruit of your life. Let us see him in you. And then when we ask you, give us the reason for the hope that is yours. Praise God.